Welcome to my Just Jenny podcast. I am so excited because Brooke Shields is with me, and she's this documentary that I guess when this podcast episode is dropping, my sense is it's either come out or it's about to come out. It's called Pretty Baby. And Brooke, I loved it from start to finish. And like, I want to give you a proper introduction, but everybody knows your name. Everybody knows you.
I've been around a very long time. So hopefully I've beaten it into them.
But I feel like your list of accomplishments, it's as I'm watching the documentary and I'm watching it, I'm like, oh my God, right. She did that. Oh, wait, she did that. And she also did this. And wait, there was that thing. And I mean, you did reveal certain things that I didn't know about. And I don't really well, they're going to end up being talked about anyway, once people start watching the documentary. What is it like for you at this point when so much of your life was about Brooke Shields being beautiful, Brooke Shields being sort of, in a way, not a person, more like this aesthetic thing that everybody else kind of, in a way, tried to have ownership over your beauty, when you've spent your life doing so much? You're so much.
I mean, I think I did so much in spite of, and possibly maybe that was a driving factor. Yeah. Maybe I didn't know. Maybe it was subliminal. I'm not quite sure, but I definitely knew from a very early age that there had to be more, I think, than just the way someone looks, which, yes, I feel blessed, but it was arbitrary. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't really have anything to do with it. I guess you could say, I mean, I got lucky. I don't know. It's just, you look at my mom and my dad and you go, oh, okay, I can see how that could produce this child, but beyond that, there's, it's hard to really ascribe value to it. And really understand that it has value, because I never, I used to just think, but I didn't do anything to look this way. So what can I do to find value so that, if anything, maybe it'll rise up.
I think it did. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I think you did develop this self so much so that even when, and I'm sure I've told you this in one of the times I've interviewed you over the years, I think I think we did like an interview in front of an audience for your second book about your mom, and you. But you were always so nice as a young person, and so like regular. It wasn't like seeing you in an airport or seeing you out and about. Yes, was seeing a movie star for sure, but not a movie star in the sense of like that you had this air about you that you were unapproachable or that you were cooler than everyone else. And I don't know, you seem to have had this understanding that with that beauty came this responsibility to have a self and to almost, in a way, make yourself so relatable and real and regular.
I think, thank you. I mean, I think I fought for that because the alternative, A, didn't feel merited. And then B, I wasn't sure to what end. Do you know what I mean? I just don't, I didn't know what the value to it was. I understood it. I mean, I understood it made me money. I understood we got a house. I understood we got a car. I understood these things that were directly proportionate to looking a certain way. And I understood that. And I never devalued that. But I think that I just knew that I wouldn't have a life going forward if I didn't find some way to keep my feet on the ground.
Yeah.
And I think this sort of relatable or accessible or, thing it's an interesting piece because, yes, it does definitely, it's why I'm alive. I think it's why I have these incredible children and an amazing husband. And, although not this morning, I don't know if I would call him amazing this morning. He pissed me off.
That's okay. He's a husband. What are you supposed to do? You're with someone for over 20 years. It's good. You're going to hate him some of the time. That's healthy and normal. Hello.
But I do think that at times what I did was I so pushed myself down and made myself so much smaller
Yeah.
for so long to be relatable, to not be a threat, to, make yourself small. Don't, make sure everybody loves you on the set. Everybody, don't treat any, and I will never treat anybody less than ever.
Yeah.
But there's also this other counteracting part that makes you not revel in any of your bigness,
Right.
in your accomplishments or in, and I don't, it's hard to revel in beauty. I really, again, you can sort of do it from afar, but to me, I never was able to really do that. And what's interesting is my girls will take pictures of themselves and they'll say, look how great I look, mom. And
It's a different
so
kind of thing. I mean, yeah.
It's wonderful to see because I
Yeah.
never felt that. So there's got to be a balance. I wouldn't change it, but I will say that I wish I gave myself a little bit more credit, not for looking a certain way, but for all the other things that I did.
Oh my God.
In addition, you know what I mean?
Forget about it. In a way. I mean, yeah, sure. Yes. You look that way and you're Brooke Shields. So yes, asked and answered. We know this, like it's not of dispute. You're a beautiful woman. We're a beautiful child. And we're put in these circumstances. And in this documentary, we sort of see it and feel it, like it's palpable, the stuff that you went through. I was cringing watching these interviews that you had to give as a teenager, or as an 11-year-old, or as a 14-year-old, or as a 16-year-old, and the level of inappropriateness that was just thrown at you that you just so poised and gracefully handled in such a measured, magnificent way. Like that's where you need to really love yourself and see yourself and acknowledge yourself, because
I look at these interviews and I had never seen them. I never watched any of this stuff. I've never seen it all together. My mom just kept all of it. We never watched it. We never tuned in. She just got a tape of it, we never left the studio without her getting a tape of it in her hand. I mean, and I had like a warehouse filled. And one day I decided to digitize it on the off chance that I might get like a Lifetime Achievement Award or something.
That's spectacular. That is spectacular. Yeah.
I was like, one day my kids we'll watch something that I did. And anyway, I had just finished digitizing all of it for archives, for archival, I don't know.
Of course you should have it. Yes.
And I just handed the whole hard drive over to Allie and I said, and Lana and the team, and I said, here you go, have at it. But I hadn't seen any of it.
So Allie Wentworth, of course, is part of the team that produced this documentary, and she's part of your girl gang. And I love that. I love that you have this group of friends in New York, and all of you, yes, you're actors, but each one of you are really smart. It's not just, and here I do this all the time, and then I get so mad at myself because I'm like, actors can be smart, but like not every actor's smart. I mean, you've met a lot of people, and not everybody has the same sort of level of conversation skill and smarts, but like your friends are all like super accomplished, driven, like women who want to uplift women, who are empowering and educated, and then choose to read beyond their education. Like it's very cool to see the circles in which you run. And I think that's part of sort of the normal dynamic you have, because you just seem, even with the company you keep, like a mom, like a mom who's doing the things. Do you know what I mean? In the best way.
And we all are at our core. And I think, I mean, thank you for that. And what's interesting is this particular group I think you're referring to, I met them later in life. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting. My best friend from high school came and spent the night at my house the other night. And because we lost our dog and I was like just a mess. And my best friend from high school was like, I'm coming in the city. She's in Jersey. Yeah. And I said, yeah, come in, we'll just watch a movie and we'll, let's just whatever, hang out. And we went out to just have a bite to eat. And I said, oh, this is my best friend from high school. And then everybody that we met that said that went, oh, like it was a huge shock to have friends from high school. And I thought, that's not necessarily very common. And in this industry.
Right.
But what my mom did so well was I never lived in Los Angeles or Hollywood.
Yep.
I went to, my friends from high school are still my friends from high school, and my
Yeah.
friends from college and they don't all know each other, but I sort of was able to ferret out the women in my life that I knew would be there for the long run. And then
Mhm.
when you meet a group of people in your 40s,
Yeah.
it's a revelation. You can't believe that you've met new women who you get to meet
Yeah.
on a different level,
Yeah, for
in high
sure.
school, college, not because you were thrown together, but because you see something in someone and you say, hey, I want to be your friend.
Yeah, but I
Will you be
get
my
it.
friend? Like it,
Yeah. It's
and
a connection. It's an understanding. It's a relatability.
you have to put yourself out there for it. I think for women, especially in this age, I'm 57 now, but like in this age, you don't think that there's room to meet new people and have new relationships. And
Mhm.
they are revelatory.
Yeah,
They
it's the
bring out
best.
different things in you and you get to
Yeah.
learn. And I am the dumbest one in that group. I mean, I sit there
None of you're dumb.
and bob my
Yeah.
head back and forth because of
Yeah.
the level of, and it's intimidating, but it's also inspiring. And I love knowing that in this era of my age, of my life, that I can have a whole type of new quality of friendship.
It's really cool. Yeah. I mean, I've seen you all at sort of parties or events and stuff, and it's just really nice. It's a lovely thing to see female friendship, and then to see you working together with Allie, who I respect so much just for what she's done and sort of who that she is. And then your parenting in watching the documentary, and of course we will talk about your Beginning is Now initiative and your podcast for sure. Now What, which is terrific. And you just had Monica Lewinsky on recently, and I know her a little bit, but how cool that you got to actually sit down and have a real conversation with her. But when the Tom Cruise thing happened, when you had postpartum and you were so gracious to let mothers everywhere know that they're not alone in sort of, you have a baby and you stare at the potato and it may not be everything that you expected it to be the moment it happens, right? And that duality of a disconnect plus a fear and worry about the horrible things that might occur in one way or another. And I feel like that has kind of been, in a way, one of the things that started the dialogue in general of parenting being hard. And I think about you talking to me 10 years ago about your girls. And we were sitting in Sirius XM in the studio, and our kids are similarly aged. My son's 24, my daughter's 22. And I remember you talking about your girls and the hormones. And I have been through the girl and the hormones. It's a never ending cycle of the girl and the hormones. And she has the hormones at 22. But do you think you realized, or did you realize when you were speaking out, that you were almost giving permission for women everywhere to really be honest about being mothers, whether it was to newborns or to teenagers or to the 20-year-olds?
I mean, here's the thing. I think it's very self-aggrandizing and to think that I'm I'm in a position to grant permission to anyone.
Thank you, Brooke.
Yes, you're welcome. You're most welcome. But I think that what I was doing, and it seems to be a theme for me, is I was saying, in a way too, it was a plea for my own type of help, because I was saying, I can't be alone in this. I cannot be the only person going through this.
No.
I'm not the first person on earth to have a child. I am not the first person in humankind to have struggled, and nobody was talking to me. Nobody was coming to my aid. No one was telling me it was okay, or don't worry about it, or your experience is common, or, so it wasn't as if I was saying, I grant everyone this freedom to feel the way they feel. It's sort of more like, I was like, this is really scary. Can someone please tell me I'm not crazy, and then having daughters as well, I thought, this was, I just had the one daughter, but I thought, oh my God, what if I'm not here when she has a child? How is
Mm.
she going to know that this is okay, that there's help to be gotten, and that you don't have to suffer in silence, and that it's actually not good for you or the baby or your friends or family or anybody to try to buck up and bear this, So I
Yeah.
think it definitely was the right time, and the right, the right period of time in our consciousness, or whatever you want to call it, to be able
Yeah.
to have this conversation. Any earlier, I might have been, like labeled attention grabbing, or I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know that you would have, only because I think it was so sincere. Like, going back, and again, this documentary, you guys, Pretty Baby, it's like so nostalgic and such a walk down memory lane through your lens, Brooke. And it's,
which I didn't think anybody would care about,
oh
because
my God. Oh,
but when you look, when you step outside and you look at it in its sort of entirety, I'm like, how the hell did she do this? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I was even leaning over to Allie going, who is that?
Yeah, it's a time capsule too. Like, it's
definitely, and also to save my soul and psyche, whatever, I compartmentalized everything.
right.
I didn't just not watch my interviews. Like, it didn't exist after it was done. Nothing. I was like, I had blinders on for, 50 something years.
Yeah, no. And then after, I think about how, and I'm sorry that this happened to you, when you talked about the sexual assault that nobody knows about until they see the documentary. Like, nobody knows about it until they see this documentary. And I rewound it. I watched and I went, wait, what? Wait, what did she just say? I was like, wait, what happened?
No.
And I mean, I'm so sorry, that you went through that, because not okay, not your fault. But there was something that you said that I thought was so interesting, how you addressed it. You said, there was a part of me that felt cool. And I want to talk about that a minute, because I understand that. Not cool, like rape means you've arrived. No, obviously not.
No, but
No, I know. But I totally understand the weirdness of the whole, like, almost like this couldn't happen. This couldn't actually be, therefore it must mean something, of that kind of, I'm actually in it, whatever that it might be.
it was, and maybe it's a defense mechanism, but there's a form of approval,
Yeah.
that I was able to morph the experience into.
Uh-huh.
And especially someone, myself, who has been so sort of shut off to that part of my life and self, that this was somehow, as horrible as it was, there was a form of a stamp, or it was, I mean, and maybe that's what your brain does in trauma. Maybe it tries to craft whatever the experience is into something less horrific.
Yeah.
But that was, when I said that too in the documentary, I thought, wow, that's really true. And there is something in there that I'm sure if I spoke to a medical, if I spoke to a doctor about, or something, that they would say that's a very common.
I think so. It resonated. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
A type of, I mean, those situations come in so many different forms.
For sure.
And I think that that's what makes it difficult for all of us to sort of quantify it, because it doesn't look the same. It's not in an alley,
no, and it's so honest.
And it's, so I think it's hard. And I think that's why it's very hard to sort of grapple with, and really, and break down, to really understand it. But that was definitely, there was some perverse version of approval.
Well, yeah, it's
just,
fuckability, Brooke. It's like a weird, even though it has nothing to
I
do with
know.
sex.
I know.
Nothing to do with sexual assault has zero to do with sex in the actual what it is. But it's still, especially for the time and for how old you were and for your life experience and this sort of, you were always a juxtaposition of this magnificent, yeah,
chosenness in it,
which is weird,
which is so fucked up.
Yes.
But when you're that vulnerable, you think, oh, well, maybe this is okay. All right. So, but it was so, but it's dismissed. It's so dismissive too. It was I was so dismissed.
Yeah.
That I was like, this is very confusing. I think I'm just going to pretend it never happened.
And but then you wrote the letter, but then you ended up writing the letter. And so it made me, after you were assaulted in that way, and then you're assaulted by Tom Cruise in another way. And both times you wrote letters, essentially. One was in the New York Times, but
I grew up.
You grew up a little bit. You had a greater reach with your second letter. And I'm not making light of the sexual assault. Please know, I feel for you. And I actually, when in the documentary, you were like, "Ugh, I'm pathetic." And the last thing I've ever thought about you ever in any moment was that you were pathetic. I actually have always thought that you had this extraordinary strength, Brooke, and like understanding of who you are. And again, to your credit, like you did not let your ridiculous beauty stop you from being a full person. I mean, because in a way it could have. Yeah, but that was a choice that you made.
It might have, and that might have been enough. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's hard to say, and it's how people are wired. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what someone chooses, then again, it's their prerogative. Like, I don't have any judgment of any of it.
Right.
It just made me feel lonely.
Yeah.
So I think that is associated with beauty is something people probably go like, "Oh, fuck you," like whatever. Oh, it must be so difficult to be so whatever. And I understand that, but there was an isolation and a sort of this like, you're so far away on some pedestal that you just you can't reach anybody. You can't reach anything.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think also the word assault is, if you look back at those old interviews, they were all forms of that.
Oh my God, yes.
Think like, oh wow, okay, so this is familiar to me, and how I respond is going to change over time. And luckily, I was able to kind of go, all right, no, this doesn't fit anymore. I'm not going to do this.
Even the lawsuit. Yeah. Oh, tell me.
There's one interview that didn't make it into the documentary because it would have been an 8-hour documentary if we.
I would have watched it. Yeah. Uh-huh.
But you're sweet. Thank you. I get hot talking about this stuff. There's just one where I'm a similar age. I must be like 12 or 13, and I look at the woman. This woman keeps asking me the same question over and over and over, and I keep answering it. She keeps asking the same question in different ways. And finally, I say to her, "Excuse me, ma'am." I said, "Ma'am," this is when I was in that age. And I said, "I'm sorry, but I don't think you really want my answer because I keep answering it. And I think you want a different answer, but I don't have a different answer because this is my truth."
Yeah.
And I looked at my little self and I thought, you've been fighting for your truth since you were that age. You just didn't know how to fight, how to get it, how to find it,
Yeah.
But thank God I was able, thank God that person was in there in that little body so that I could get to this place,
Do you think that going to college is what kind of set you on the path of realizing, not just because of your hypothesis that you told your professor that you had? I love that. I love that whole exchange.
Which makes George gets all emotional at that part of the documentary every time. It's very sweet.
Well, because it's beautiful to see you kind of come into your own and realize, like, I am more than a pretty face. Like,
what's also funny though is you hope, and that's pretty much many people's experience in college, if you're lucky enough to find those mentors and those professors and And so I think I watch it. Mine was played out, like mine was filmed, right? So it's interesting, but you look at that and you think, God, I want that for my children. I want them to have a professor, or them to go to school or learn something that makes them feel inspired by their ideas. I mean, it definitely, but college to me was my saving grace. I mean, it was where I knew I was supposed to be, because I knew there was a life to be had, and that put me on the right path to having it.
And your mother gave that to you. I mean, your mother, as much as she was troubled and damaged and couldn't get out of her own way, she knew she had to suffer through your being at school. I say that as a mother. I suffer through my kids being at, the bait and switch of the kids growing up and leaving us. It's cruel and unreasonable, and it's absurd, truly. But
it's truly absurd.
But they have to do it. Yeah, they have to do it.
And, all she would have had to have done is said, come home. I would have been home in a second, because I was so out of, like, fish out of water. I was so lonely. I just wanted my bed. I wanted my routine, and I wanted friends. And she just, she said it. She was like, you'll never forgive yourself if you do that. And that was her most selfless, painful, I think, thing she ever did. And it really kind of was the beginning of her demise, because she didn't know what else to live for, So I watched that. I mean, she just couldn't pull herself out of it.
There's something incredibly powerful in that statement, that in and of itself, that the fact that her whole life was spent being about you were her daughter, you were a commodity, you were her identity. And I think as mothers, I don't know, I think it's so important as a mother to have things that make you tick in addition to your kids, because you don't want to give them that responsibility, even though they are everything. Obviously,
they are.
You want
everything.
them to.
They shouldn't bear that burden.
Correct. That's right.
And my daughters, my younger daughter, when she was really little, she saw me crying, and I don't know what it was about, and she says, "Mama, crying?"
Oh.
And instead of saying, like, no, I have something in my eye, or no, I'm okay, or I thought, well, that's not good either. You've got to tell her you're human, but you also, but she's not here to fix it.
Right.
So how do I tell her I'm human, but also put her mind at ease that she doesn't need to be my savior? And it was like this, I mean, she was like 3 or 2 or something. And I just said, I said, Mama's a little sad right now, but guess what? I'm going to be okay. And I love you. And she was like, oh, Mama crying. Okay.
Right. Okay.
And I was like, that's it. That's all I got.
How did you learn how to be the kind of mother that you are to Rowan and Greer? Because again, I could tell you from talking to you years ago, sort of at every stage of their development, you seem like just an intentional, good, regular, normal, involved mother. And I say that because I think most mothers are good. Most mothers try their best. You clearly are a mother who's choosing to be present and actually be a mother. And so how'd you learn how to do that when the example that was set forth wasn't ideal?
I think there was a lot of good that my mom did that was atypical to being a mom. So I was able to kind of carve that out and think of all the joy that we did have together, and wanting my girls, my daughters to have that. So there was fun. I wanted to have fun in the friendship. I didn't in the friendship meaning like in
of course. Yes.
And I always say, I'm not your friend. I'm friendly to you. But I'm your mother. But like,
of course,
I mean, I'm not trying to be like one of the cool kids.
Cool mom.
But
I'm a cool mom.
No,
no.
So not a cool mom. And they'll tell you I'm not. But
I just have to watch your TikTok to know that you're not a cool mom, or Greer's TikTok to know that you're not a cool mom.
Yeah, so. No, it's pretty evident.
I love it so much. Yeah.
I also have had a lot of therapy. Like I've done a lot of the work that just makes you understand why you do certain things, why certain things were done when they were done to you, how you reacted, and then sort of realize like, oh, okay, I'm going to keep learning about how this works and how I don't want to make their lives about me, because that's a huge burden.
Yeah.
And then, you know, finding really great moms that
Yeah.
you sort of say, oh, okay, that was really good with that they just did there.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to them about it and then see if it works, you know, on my kid for
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
reason. And also just, if you listen to them, that doesn't mean that, you know, that they're always right and they get anything they want. Obviously not, but they will tell you who they are,
Yes.
you know, and it might not be appropriate at that moment, but you say like, okay, I know who you are, but X, Y, and Z. Like, and also it's just, so I used to make them please and thank you and look people in the eye and shake hands and write thank you notes and all that stuff. And they would say, why do I have to do this to so-and-so's house?
Yeah.
I said, because I want you invited back. I want you invited back. It's that simple. Get invited back.
Yeah. Just do
Like,
the right thing. Yeah.
be a nice person in their house. Bring your dishes, put them in the dishwasher. Like,
of course.
Be a good human being.
Yes.
The rest is, I can't, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, but I was like, there are certain things I can help you with.
Yeah, no.
like,
And even, watching you with them in the documentary and kind of like, they're so different and they're so cute and they seem equally secure. And I love how you've encouraged both of them to find the right paths for themselves.
And you know, they're so different. They just have to figure it out. And I just don't want to get in their way, but I want to try to, you know, guide them through it. Because even when you say something after they've like fucked up in some major way, you know, they hear you.
Yeah.
They do hear you, you know, and you'll see glimmers of it later. And you'll think, oh, okay, they did register what I said. Or
of course. Yeah.
My older one's at college and, you know, she called me and she said, Mom, it's amazing how well you taught us how to be well-behaved human beings. You know, she said, you'd be surprised how few people understand social cues or how they understand just respect or, you know, and it's, you know, it's a dying art. I hope. Yeah.
Oh, Rowan. And with Greer modeling, how is that for you? Because,
you know, I can't.
Both girls are equally lovely, but it's clear that Greer wants to use her loveliness in a certain way. And yeah, as a mom, is that terrifying?
It's terrifying. But I fought it for so long that I finally came to this conclusion that I can't, my fighting it isn't going to stop her from doing it. No. So, you know, and I have less and less control every day that goes by. So I finally said to her, okay, I will come onto your side with this, but there are going to be rules. And if you really want me to, by the way, she thinks I can flip a switch and it can happen because I'm me. And she's in for a rude awakening if that's, you know, but only because nothing is easy. Nothing is easy.
Oh my God, nothing. That's why the whole Nepo baby thing is so stupid, because in a way for her to have the comparison, I mean, she's gorgeous, but like the comparison to you, I mean, it's not going to be easy for her to be a model, even though she's stunning. And no, I mean, she's gorgeous.
No, and there's so many beautiful people. Like, it's not like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Wait, what? Doctor doesn't have a son who becomes a doctor? Like,
of course, it's ridiculous.
Lawyers, we have some lawyers, like every
that's right. And then you have to prove yourself even more than the next person. Yes.
You know, construction company owners have their son working for them. Like, we're all Nepo babies.
That's right. Brooke, I agree. I think it's like to sort of put a negative spin on it. It's dumb.
I mean, and you know, it's interesting too, because you'll see people like in the music industry or in another industry, and you'll think like, well, you've got incredible music genes. Like,
yeah, exactly. That's right.
Able to sing.
Right. She was right. Correct. And so
whatever.
But how do you protect her? How do you feel a sense of that you can protect her when the world is what it is, right?
You know, things are different now than they used to be. So there are different rules that are set in place. There are agencies won't let girls do shows until they're 18 or
Good.
do anything like that. And I also said, I never did runway. I never had that body. I was not that person. And so I was always editorial or covers or whatever. And so I said, I don't know that world. I said, so I'm going to have to align you and find someone who can be your chaperone and take you through this, because I won't know the ins and outs of that world. I can tell you the ins and outs of other parts of the industry, but not this one. And the rules are different now. I do think that it's quite brutal when you see backstage at these shows, and she'll have to decide for herself. I don't worry about her because she has she's very clear about everything. She's got this moral code in her that's just straight through. And so I think she can recognize bad behavior and not feel intimidated by it. Yeah. But waiting as long as we can. Luckily, she's not 18. So
Ben, you and Chris have raised both of your girls with a sense of who they are. And I think that's part of it. I think that, that kind of dynamic.
They're so different that you have to just let them be who they are,
you cannot mold them into people they're not. It just will never work. That will never work for any parent, for anybody listening. If your kid is other than you thought it was going to be, get over yourself and encourage your child to be who they are. Like that's just, and also, it's not about you. Yeah.
It's so easy to label them. Oh, she's my athletic. Sure. Oh, she's my one. She's my that one. Yeah. And you don't even realize you're doing it. Oh, she's my spunky one. You know what I mean? And they're like 2. And you think, oh my God, that's where it starts. It starts then. Yep. And then they grow up, or that's my finicky one. Or that and then they go, oh, well, I guess I'm the finicky one. So I'm not gonna eat this, this, and this, and this. And you're like, oh, I've done that. I did that.
Talk about the podcast about Now What? Because I love this. I feel it every day. I'm 53. I've gone through several Now What's, and I have. And I think it's a skill that you gotta get.
I pitched this to iHeart sort of randomly one day, and I said, I'm fascinated by that. I'm fascinated by the people that we've seen in the world, and that they're the people down the street or at the corner store or whatever. We've all had those moments in our life, and I'm really interested in how people move through those. And you can talk to anybody. You can talk to a president of the president of the United States, or you can talk to whoever you hold up on a pedestal. They've had now what moments. And I do think that it defines you, or it reveals you, I should say, not defines you, but how you go through it and how you decide to pivot, what your reaction is. Do you say, poor me, and just stay in a fetal position? Or do you say, God, that sucks, but wow, now what am I going to do, and figure it out? That when you hear those stories from people, it's so encouraging, it's inspiring, and everybody's had them. So so I pitched the show, and I said, I just think I'd like to talk to people about their now what moments. And iHeart was so receptive, and it's been great. I've learned a lot, of how to be on your side, like be on the other side. And it's taken me a little while to get comfortable with it. And we're not a gotcha show, I don't need to go into the tabloid versions of things. I'm not, that's not, it's already been done. So it's nice to sort of talk to people and really kind of say to them, God, what were you thinking at that moment? And how did you do it? So
also, most people want the opportunity to tell their story the way they want it told.
Yeah. Not the way it has been told, or, and really sort of say, like, gosh, we can learn from that, So I've had some great people on, and we're in our 2nd season, and we're almost done with our 2nd season. So
it's great. I think it's terrific. I think it's, I love stories of resilience and, sort of the ongoing process of being alive. And certainly for women, we have so many different times in our lives that we do have to pivot and we do get to the now what.
And you really do. And I mean, so many moments are now what's. And, and I think as women in particular, like you said, we constantly are in the process of also redefining who we are or who we want to be or who we aspire to be, or, and we need to keep doing that. There's this sort of reinvention that is possible or not, or you just keep becoming more of what you want, or who you are. But it takes now what moments, it takes, fighting to continue ahead. It takes perseverance, and especially women in this, once you turn 40, you start to sort of be kind of relegated to the sidelines. You're all of a sudden, you don't have the same value that you used to, and it happens quickly. And to me, that's just, it's not acceptable,
Is that where Beginning Is Now has kind of come out of?
That's exactly where Beginning Is Now started, because I just couldn't understand why I'd reached this place in my life where I wasn't belaboring the things that I had always belabored for whatever reasons, any physical, any reasons why you beat yourself up. And I got tired of it. And I started saying, what if I were to go through the world as if I was enough, really just enough as I am.
Wow.
I feel.
Yeah.
And it was always like this weight was lifted off of me. And I thought, this is amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go forward in the world. And then everywhere I turned, certain doors, every door was closed. I don't mean it physically, but it was, oh, you're not an ingenue. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not trying to be an ingenue, but okay. Or you're not this, or, oh, and I thought, well, just because I don't look like I did when I'm 16 or I'm a kid, why should I have any less value? I mean, I even have more value now because I've been through all this shit, It's like, I've now come out like the phoenix or whatever, risen.
Rising from the ashes.
From the ashes multiple times. And why is that all of a sudden, does that not have any currency in this culture? In other cultures, it does carry a certain, it carries value. And and my friend said, well, why don't you do it? And I said, why don't I do what? He said, well, why don't you start a company? Right. I was like, what about what? And he said that. And I said, oh, and so it just started as this community, and then the community built, and then we realized we sort of had a full-blown sort of this presence and this platform that I really needed to now grow it and make it more of a company and produce product. And so now we're in that phase where we're getting financing, and that the business part of it is just mind-boggling that we're growing at that sort of at that level now, and we're going to be producing product and beauty products. We made these amazing sports bras, but we're not trying to compete with Lululemon or any of those.
No, there's room for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not what we did. And we didn't market it, but I don't know about you, but I get stuck in my sports bra every time I try to take it off, and it's sweaty and I'm like dislocating a shoulder. So we created I designed and created this unbelievable sports bra that has this zipper on the side, and it's easy.
I love that.
But we didn't market it or anything like that. But so I thought, you know what, there's problems that women need solutions to. Our skin is different. Our hair is different. My eyebrows are different. They're, things are just not, they don't have this, that they're not as they used to be. And those are the problems.
That's why we made bunny eyes, because I needed glasses I could hold in my hands.
I know. I love
That was exactly the reason, because I couldn't see anymore. So no, I love that you do this though. And I love that you're creating products for people our age. And let me just say one other thing about the whole, the lesser value as we age as women. Look, in a way, I guess because you were prized for and are prized for kind of your aesthetic, I get that our society is kind of vile when it comes to women aging, but man, you're beautiful. And like, I think of you and I think of Paulina, right? As these
yeah.
sort of two women being outspoken about beauty and longevity of beauty. And I mean, you are exactly as beautiful as you've been. You just happen to be 57. So to sort of, do you know what I mean? So to sort of like qualify it or quantify it or make it like there's any less value, you got to change that narrative because you're magnificent.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's taken me a while to sort of, feel that I'm good enough at every stage. It's hard for us to do that. And there's so many things, and it's very different for men. It's
for sure.
It is just culturally different. It is a different narrative in the psyche and the brain and whatever. And I think that's, and I've learned a lot from my girls too, and it's a different generation and there's different values to different things. But, this idea of not wanting them to feel less than because of X, Y, and Z, which, everything in my era and one of my eras.
Yeah, I get it. You're very hip using era in this way.
Yeah. No, but like I always say, like in my day.
Yeah, of course.
Like, why can't your day still be today? But it was, you were always not something. You know what I mean? You were never just what you were. You were not tall enough. You were not short enough. You were not skinny enough. You were not blonde enough. You were not, everything was, this is what you're not.
Yep.
And that's what this industry, the entertainment industry is fraught with.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to sort of impart to them all that you are, not what you're not,
Yes, yes, of course.
Do it daily.
And I know that you do it the right way. Keep showing up. This, as I said, I loved Pretty Baby so much. I think people are going to be so excited to watch it and they're going to love it. And it's really that good.
What do you think they'll love it? Like, I'm just so curious.
Why do I think they'll love it? Oh my God. Because it was nostalgic. It's nostalgic and it's informative. So there were things that I learned, not just about you, but like about the context of the you. And that seemed like advantage of seeing you then, but knowing you now as a grown-up was like to see what you've gone through to get to where you are today. It's like, I wanted to cheer. Right. And
it's funny. So I guess the movie got a standing ovation. And
it makes total sense to me. Total sense.
But I didn't see it because I had to get up at the end and go back around backstage and then come out on the stage.
Yeah.
And so they'd have sat down by the time I came back out. Right. So I came back out and I was the last person to come out. So I came out and everybody stood up.
Yeah.
And I thought they were leaving.
Oh,
so I was like, oh, they're leaving. I was like, don't they know there's a Q&A?
Oh, Brooke.
Brooke. Idiot.
Oh, Brooke, right.
They're standing up here. I'm like, this is not false humility. I thought they were leaving.
No, it's really,
they were very moved by it.
It's moving. It's a whole emotional journey. I'm telling you, because, like, yes, it's the, again, maybe for me, because I know you, I feel like a connection to you and a protective nature because I like you. And so watching what you've been through, do you know what I mean? Like it just, and I think everyone's going to feel that way because most people have had, in a way, a parasocial relationship with you. So then they're going to see this and feel, everything. So, all right, you have got to go talk to other people. So I'm going to tell people to follow you at Brooke Shields across social media platforms. I'm at Just Jenny Hutt on Instagram. I'm at Jenny Hutt on TikTok and Twitter. And any questions or comments, email justjennypod@gmail.com. And Brooke, this documentary, I think people are going to go bananas for it. And I know they're going to keep listening to Now What? And they have to become a part of the Beginning Is Now initiative because it's important. And I thank you for coming on my podcast.
I thank you for having me. You're always lovely to talk to and hang out with.
Yeah.
So
all right.
Thank you.
Go to your next interview. Goodbye.